Finally, here is a quick overview of the different services you can use on AWS to help you with your on-premise migration. So the first one is the application discovery service, and it will help you plan migration projects by gathering information about on-premise data center. It will track some stuff such as server utilization data and also map the dependency before you do your migration. So there's two kind of discoveries for application discovery service. There is the agentless discovery and with something called the application discovery agentless connector, and this is an OVA package, open virtual appliance package that you have to deploy onto a VMware host on premise, and this package will do some inventory on all the virtual machine you have. So their configuration, their performance history such as CPU, memory and disk users. It is going to work for any kind of operating system, but there's a second way of doing things, which is to use like the agent-based discovery. Agent-based discovery, AWS Application Discovery Agent. So which is really interesting here. Also, this will gather system performance, running processes, and details of all the network connection between the system by deploying an agent onto a Microsoft server and Amazon Linux, Ubuntu, Red Hat, CentOS to say. So the idea is that this agent will literally look into all the processes and also look into the network data and will map it with all the other agents we have deployed on all the other servers, and this will allow us to get a full map of how the servers are communicating with one another. And this will allow us to discover that yes, indeed some servers seem to talk to one another, but we didn't know about it. Okay, so this is to discover your entire mapping of services, applications and the servers overall. So all the resulting data can be exported to a CSV or viewed within something called the AWS Migration Hub, and you can also query it using the Amazon Athena. So now let's talk about the AWS Application Migration Service, or MGN for short. So it's an evolution of another service that AWS had bought in the past. Um, which was previously been called the CloudEndure migration. So and AWS used to have this service called Server Migration Service (SMS), and now both of them combined together are equal to the Application Migration Service. And if you see CloudEndure migration or SMS in your exam, this is the exact same service. All right. So the purpose of the MGN, that cloud uh, cloud so here MGN, that is cloud migration service. A service is to do a lift and shift and so a rehost solution to simplify migrating application to AWS. So what it will do is that it will convert your physical, virtual or cloud-based servers to run natively on AWS. So as an example, you have your corporate data center and you have your OS or your apps, your database or your disk, and you want to move them into the cloud using the MGN service. That's the application migration service, MGN. For this, you are going to create a staging environment, and then you will run the replication agent from AWS, and the replication agent will continuously replicate the data, your applications, and so on. So onto your staging environment. So which will correspond to an EC2 instance and ABS volumes, or like and then when you are ready to fully migrate, you can do a cut over into a production environment to have a largely side EC2 instance and EBS volumes. So this service, the application migration service MGN, supports a wide range of platforms, supports different operating systems as well as databases, and it gives you a minimal downtime and reduced costs. And so the second service that looks like MGN is called the Elastic Disaster Recovery, or DRS, Disaster Recovery Service, DRS. And why it's somewhat looks somewhat similar, looks as of the MGN. That's the application migration service. It is used to be called the CloudEndure Disaster Recovery, but it's been renamed and rebranded as a pure AWS service. So the way it works with this service, you can quickly and easily recover your physical, virtual or cloud-based servers into AWS, which is very similar from the previous some of the disaster recovery approaches we seen. But this one is about recovery. So for example, you want to protect your most critical databases, for example, Oracle, MySQL, SQL Server. You want to protect your enterprise apps, okay? For example, SAP, and so, or you want to protect yourself from ransomware attacks and so on. So, and for this, you are going to get a continuous block level replication for your servers into the cloud. And so the architecture is very similar because they actually rely on the same backend technology. So you have your OS and your apps, your database and your disk that were going to be pushed into the cloud using the Elastic Disaster Recovery. So you need to have a replication agent that will replicate within seconds all your data into the cloud, and then if you are ready to do disaster recovery, then you can perform a failover within minutes to get a full-blown production environment ready in AWS. In case, for example, like your corporate data center goes down, and in case you want to failover back, then you can have a failback mechanism when your corporate data center is available again. So to summarize, there is a few services you can use which even the on-premises. So the first of all, to show you, you can download the Amazon Linux to AMI as a virtual machine. In the ISO format, which allow you to load into onto VMware, VMware, KVM, VirtualBox, and Microsoft Hyper-V. Then when it comes to moving from on-premises to the cloud, you can use the AWS Application Discovery Service to gather information about your on-premises servers and plan a migration. You are going to get information about server utilization and dependency mapping, and then you can track the entire migration with AWS Migration Hub. Then you have the AWS Application Migration Service, or MGN, which is replacing the SMS or the CloudEndure Migration Service. And what you are going to get is incremental replication of on-premises infrastructure, live servers into AWS. So you can migrate the entire virtual machine into AWS with this service. Then you have a DRS service, so Elastic Disaster Recovery, which is very similar to MGN. But this one is replacing what's called the CloudEndure Disaster Recovery, and it's going to help you recover on-premises workload onto AWS through a disaster recovery strategy. And then finally, not mentioned in this lecture, but you have known about it already, that is the AWS Database Migration Service, or DMS, which is like going to be used to replicate your on-premise servers onto AWS, or from AWS to AWS, or even from the AWS to on-premises. And this is for databases only, of course only. So it works for the Oracle, MySQL, DB, and DynamoDB, and etc. etc. All right, so that's it for this lecture on virtual machine and somewhat the VM migration services. And I hope you liked it, and I will see you in the next lecture.